With the next step, we need to substitute two things. We need to substitute u for g of x, and we also need to substitute whatever we have for dx, which will always be du over g prime of x. So we substitute those two things. So I take this first problem, and if I substitute u for g of x, u is x to the fourth plus 3. So I'm going to rewrite this. Instead of x to the fourth plus 3 cubed, I'm going to write u cubed. That's what I mean by plug in u. Or it might look a little bit more clear if I wrote it u cubed. So u goes in for wherever you found it from. And dx, this dx, we're going to plug this in. Du over 4x cubed. So we plug in these two things. We plug in something for g of x, we plug in u for g of x, and we rewrite dx with our expression that we found in the last step. Our goal here is to simplify this. So something that we should notice is that this x cubed reduces with that x cubed. And that's our goal. So if I rewrite this 4 in the denominator here, I'm just going to make this a 1/4 coefficient. So I have 1/4 u cubed du. So the original problem, this whole original problem, rewritten in terms of u, now looks like this. These are equivalent statements. And the benefit to rewriting it in terms of u is now this is something I can take the antiderivative of. So 1/4 u cubed du. So I want to take its antiderivative. So u cubed, I'm taking the antiderivative, so it's going to be u to the fourth. And I need to do 1/4 divided by 4, so I have 1/16 plus c. So we take the antiderivative in terms of u. Our final step, if the original problem was in terms of x, we want the final answer to be in terms of x. So the last thing is we plug g of x back in for u. So instead of 1/16 u to the fourth, my final answer is 1/16 x to the fourth plus 3 to the fourth. Okay, so we're going to do this quite a few more times to try to get the hang of it. So for the next problem, u was 1 minus 2x squared, so I'm going to have x times the cube root of u times my dx was du over negative 4x. So I look for this to simplify. Just like in the problem above, the x cubed simplified, with this problem, the x's are going to simplify. And we always want that. We always want that to simplify. So just like I did before with the 4 that was left over, here I have a negative 4 left over. I'm going to make that a negative 1/4 coefficient. So I have negative 1/4, the cube root of u. I know I'm going to be taking its antiderivative, so I'm going to say u to the 1/3. So let's take that antiderivative. So u to the 1/3 becomes u to the 4/3. For my coefficient, I need to do negative 1/4 divided by 4/3, so times 3/4. So my new coefficient is going to be negative 3 over 16. And then, just like last time, we want our final answer to be in terms of the original variable. So I'm going to rewrite this one more step to get my final answer, negative 3/16 times 1 minus 2x squared to the 4/3 plus c. Okay, so let's keep moving. Down here, so now we need to substitute u for x to the fourth. U is x to the fourth. So I'm going to have x cubed times sine of u times dx is du over 4x cubed. We look for simplifications. The x cubes simplify, and there's been a lot of 1/4 on this worksheet. So 1/4 sine of u du. We take its antiderivative. What has positive sign as its derivative? Negative cosine. That 1/4 is just a coefficient. So I have negative 1/4 cosine u plus c, which means my final answer is negative 1/4 cosine of x to the 4th plus c. So take the second half of the worksheet, pause this video, try the second half of the worksheet, and then come back. So we rewrite. I'm going to have x cubed over u squared times du over 4x cubed, which simplifies to 1/4. I'm going to rewrite that 1 over u squared as u to the negative 2 because I know I'm going to take the antiderivative. So that antiderivative is going to look like negative 1/4 u to the negative 1 plus c. So my final answer is negative 1/4 1 plus x to the 4th to the negative 1 plus c. On the next one, we rewrite. So I have 5x root u times du over negative 2x. The x's simplify. So now my coefficient is negative 5/2. That square root u, I'm going to write it as u to the 1/2. So I can take the antiderivative. So u to the 1/2 needs to become u to the 3/2. So that means I need to take my coefficient and divide. So I'm going to have a negative 5/3 for my coefficient. Plus c. So negative 5/3 times 1 minus x squared to the 3/2 plus c. And last one, we have x squared times the square root of u times du over 3x squared. So now I have 1/3 u to the 1/2 du. So let's take its antiderivative. I'm going to have u to the 3/2, and then 1/3 divided by 3/2 is going to be 2 over 9. So I have 2/9 times x cubed plus 2 to the 3/2 plus c.